First of all, to my lovely colleague Melissa, who you can see, without which none of this would have happened, because she is the technical whiz behind almost everything that we do at Work Avenue. So first of all, my thanks to Melissa. Second of all, my thanks to you all for joining us tonight. I think it's only right that we say before we start that these are exceptionally difficult and challenging times for us all. And that I want to tell you that Melissa and I and all our colleagues at Work Avenue are here to support you, to support all members of the community, our own community and other communities at this time to earn a living with dignity. And that support doesn't stop. And if anybody is particularly troubled by anything, please do get in touch with us. So what I'd like to do now is just start and tell you a little bit about Work Avenue and what we're going to cover tonight. Here we go. So for those of you who are not familiar with us as an organisation, Work Avenue was founded in 2006. It helps people, we as a team help people earn a living, either through finding a job or through building a business. We work with people from all backgrounds. Every single person is an individual to us. Everybody is a completely different, gives us a completely different set of challenges, which makes our job an absolute pleasure. Over 2,000 people accessed our services in 2022, and of that, 1,500 of them were employment clients. What I do want to say is that all the help that we offer is completely confidential. It's free and it's unlimited. So you can come and talk to us about absolutely anything. We'll do our best to help you. Also, the other thing is that I just want to share this next slide. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Exploring the possibilities of starting a business. We're going to talk about how to get started and then things to consider to make yourself work smarter for a plan. There's plenty of time for a Q&A. I would rather, if you don't mind, take the questions at the end all together, and we've got plenty of time to do that. It makes it easier, but if there's something that's burning that you need to ask me before we move on, then please put it in the chat. Okay, so let's get started. I just want to start with an introduction to me. I'm Sara. I work both as a business advisor and I work on the employment team and the events team at Work Avenue. This is really a personal crusade for me because in my employment history, I started off as an employee. I'm a retailer. I worked at Tesco, not in the stores, but in head office in Harlow and then in Wellingham City. I was a buyer. I bought baby and children's wear. So I bought clothing for every single store in the UK, Europe, and online. And I went from doing this sort of big corporate job. It came with a big corporate package, holidays. It came with a car, just everything. I went from there because I made some choices for me and my family. And I left Tesco and I set up a consultancy practice of my own. So I went from one to the other. I then moved from that to become a freelancer, and I moved into the Jewish charity sector. And then I moved from there again, so you can work out how old I am to do all of those things, to Work Avenue, where I'm now back to being an employee. And what I really want to talk about is to give you my personal perspective of how these things work, how you can make different choices at different stages, and to give you the confidence to do those things. It also gives me an opportunity to give back because over the time I've had plenty of advice and help, and I want to be able to give something back. So let's just start with something. And I'm going to start with a statistic. Between the year 2020 and 2021 in the UK, 810,000 new companies were started. Of those, 90% survived the first year. As most of you will know, the first year for a new business is without doubt the most challenging. So what I want to say is if people can do it in 2020 within a pandemic when life was by no means normal, then anybody can do it if it's right for them. The other thing I want to say about tonight is that there are no judgments. What's right for one person may not be right for somebody else. And there's no right and there's no wrong. And as you've heard from me, I've done 4 different things in my working career. And at each time, I've made a decision that's worked for me, sometimes also for my family at that time. Some people might say that's not right. Some people might say that's understandable. That's the choice I made. And there's no judgments tonight about anything. So one of the things I do need to tell you is that the main reason that it can be challenging to set up something of your own is that you're trying to create something that doesn't exist. You're trying to see it impact the world in a positive way. That means it's really fulfilling. You're doing something that's amazing, but it can also be hard to convince people that they need what you're doing. The more you can be clear on the sacrifices you'll make and the challenges you encounter on the journey, the more you know what you're letting self in for. And tonight is almost more than anything about me giving you the questions to ask yourself rather than me coming and solving those for you. You often hear entrepreneurs say, if I had known how hard it was going to be when I started, I wouldn't have started. I had a colleague who became my business partner when I moved from being an employee to set up a consultancy. And for me, that made an enormous difference. But I want to tell you more about that later, because the same people admit that whether or not they succeeded, they wouldn't have changed that experience for anything. So just moving on from there, what I'd like to do now is just start and explore the kind of possibilities that you could think about. So this is me giving you a minute just to think about what your objectives are in thinking that you might like to start a business of your own. Is it because you think you're going to earn more? Is it because you've got an absolute burning passion to do something? And actually, one of the things that we're seeing at Work Avenue, really since the end of the pandemic, we're seeing people who come to us say, I love baking sourdough. I love making jewelry. I love painting in lockdown. And I now want to make it into a business. That's fantastic. That's a passion. We love that. Is it because you want to challenge and you feel that your role isn't challenging? Is it because you want to grow? So can you just think for a second about which of those, and it might be none of them, it might be something else completely. Why do you think that you're doing this? Okay, moving on from that, what I do want to ask you is to think about why you may be making this step. So one of the things that we talk about in the business team at Work Avenue, when people come to us and say, I've got an idea to start a business, is that actually it isn't the business that they want to do. What they don't want is to continue doing what they're doing at the minute. They don't want to work in their current job. They don't want to work with their boss. They don't want to work in the organization. They're only told what they want to do. They want more freedom. They want more independence. They want to do their own thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that they want to set up a business. What it does indicate is that they might want to work in a slightly different way. Yeah. So let's look at what the reasons might be for starting a new business. Are you using it as a way to find a solution for an alternative job? If you break it down and be honest, is it your boss? Is it the role? Is it the organization? Is it the whole industry that you're in now that is making you think, I don't want to do that? Is that giving you that awful Sunday night feeling when you don't want to go to bed because you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to have to go to work and you don't want to do that? Do you need to move organizations, but you are comfortable there? You've been in this role, in this job, in this organization, in this department for a long time, and the whole idea seems scary. Or could your hobbies or your voluntary work be a guide or a light or a beacon to what type of job you may like? Or is there a halfway house that allows you to do it all? So now what I'd like to show you is what are the options. If you don't want to quit your job completely, how can you work around it? How else can we help you? So option one, the side hustle. This is a flexible job that you do to the side of your primary job. It's a way to bring in extra cash, to flex your creative muscles, to give you something else to do. It may allow you to earn extra money, doing something that engages you and gains professional experience in a new field. Can I just say this time that Google, who we all have on this enormous pedestal, we think is this absolutely enormous organization. To be honest, yes, it absolutely is. But it started in someone's garage. It wasn't always what we see it is now. So my tip is many successful businesses begin in somebody's garage. Anything is possible. The other thing is, I think Russell, I'm not going to pick on you, but I think you mentioned my lovely colleague, Richard, who Melissa and I work with. In his spare time, when he's not being an employment advisor at Work Avenue, he's a children's entertainer. But within the team at Work Avenue, most of us have a side hustle. We do something on the side, which we don't necessarily want to take over. Richard doesn't want to be a party entertainer all the time. We have another colleague who runs a musical business entertaining children. She doesn't want to do that all the time. We have another colleague who's a nail technician. She doesn't want to do that all the time. But it gives people something else. It gives them a bit of extra money and it gives them some flexibility. My only tip on this would be that if you do want to make it work, then negotiating your hours down from 5 to 4 or making something flexible is a great way to do it. So what are the advantages of working like this? It definitely gives you some flexibility. It can improve your finances. You can earn some extra money on the side. It can give you the chance to explore your passion in a way without giving up your job, but it's a great way to test a business without the risk. So some ideas just from us as a team. So you have somebody who does some tutoring. They're very, very maths orientated. They do some maths tutoring for students at school and university on the side. We have somebody who loves animals. She does dog walking in the evenings and at weekends. We have somebody who's passionate about music. She teaches music to some of our students in the evenings. We have somebody who is super fit and she does personal training. And then I have a client who does something completely different during the day, and in the evening she designs jewelry and she sells it on this website called Etsy. For me, the thing about making it work is choosing something that matches your interest, skills, and professional goals, because you're taking your job and then you're adding something else on the side. What you don't want to do is for that side thing to become hard work. You want it to still remain enjoyable. So it needs to be something that matches your interests or your skills. So another option, here we go, is freelancing. Excuse me. So I went from, as you've heard, from being an employee at Tesco, I went to then setting up a consultancy business. And then I went to be a freelancer. So by that time, I'd had lots of experience in retail. And a freelancer is an independent contractor who earns wages on a job or task basis, typically for short-term work. But it's somebody who is usually fairly experienced in doing something and has plenty of experience. So an example would be, we have several clients at Work Avenue who are independent journalists. And they work on a story basis, sometimes for clients and sometimes literally for themselves. And then they sell their story to the highest bidder. Advantages of freelancing, 9 times out of 10, it gives you the freedom to work when you want to work. And for most people now, that's an absolute pleasure. It gives you the freedom to work from home. It gives you a flexible work schedule and a better work-life balance. Those are all absolute pros. The disadvantage are freelancers are not employees. So they don't enjoy the benefits from employers such as health insurance, retirement plans, holiday pay, sick pay, any of that. You don't get any of that because you're not employed. It's also not a regular income stream as it's client and industry dependent. It's a great way to try things. It's a great way if you're creative and you like writing, sorry, there was just a noise here. You like writing, you like taking photographs, you're interested in people. It's a great way to start that. But it's not a guaranteed stream of income. The third one is consulting. So just to be clear, a consultant is a person who provides professional or expert advice in a particular field of science or business to either an organization or an individual. So as you know, I worked in retail. I then went to work in the charity sector as a retail consultant. There is no legal protection for you once you take the title of consultant. So you have to have your own professional legal indemnity. There's no protection at all. But the other thing is, on the plus side, that anyone can decide to adopt the consultant title. So if you think you're brilliant at something, you could tomorrow morning set up a business and say, I'm a consultant in windows, in doors, in painting, in wallpaper. Totally up to you. I think the key is that why do clients hire consultants? Because they possess expert advice, but they also have a knowledge advantage. So the pros of consultancy. Your daily rate may well be higher than a regular member of staff. So there is a general understanding within employers that when you employ a consultant, you employ them only for the time that you need them, but you need to pay them a higher daily rate. So that's a definite bonus. You're considered an independent at work, so you're not usually involved in office politics. That's sometimes an absolute bonus. You're also less likely to be involved in sensitive staff situations, and it's often an opportunity to meet and work with lots of different people on lots of different projects. And for me, I absolutely love that. You may prefer variety in your daily tasks, and this may be for you. That really, some people don't like that, and they find it really disconcerting to think that you're employed to do one thing when actually you might be employed to do 20 things. I loved it. I felt that it gave me an opportunity to try new things, that it gave me new skills and new experience. So for me, it was an absolute plus, but it isn't a guaranteed income stream. It isn't. Let's just be clear that firms hire consultants as it can be cheaper than retraining staff in-house. So if you have a project that needs to be done and it's a short-term thing, you're moving to a new computer system, you're moving to a new customer system, rather than training absolutely everybody to do it, it's sometimes easier to bring in one person who does the move and then who teaches everybody else. Firms also, and we certainly find this with our employers at Work Avenue, that they can hire when they find themselves short in capacity for projects and in positions. So it can be a quick hire stopgap, because sometimes it can take a long time to find the right person to fill a permanent role. From an employer perspective, whether we like this or whether we don't, it can be easier to get consultants to do the dirty work, to take the decisions that no one internally wants to make and be blamed for them when they've gone. The examples I've given, so systems engineers, HR managers, and people who manage particular projects or project change, or when consultants can be used. Just my tip on consultancy, if you choose to go that route, what you don't ever want to do is give the client all of your skills all at once. What you do want to do is to drip feed them. I can do this, but I can also do that. And I can come back next month and I can do that, rather than saying, these are all the things I can do. Because then they're just going to employ you for a short term. If you want to extend it, you have to drip feed those skills. And often what you find as a consultant is that by working with members of staff, you find out more about what's needed. Okay, moving on from that. The last one in this section is seasonal work on commission. So this is where you have commission pay, and it's a financial incentive given to employees based on high performance or achievements. It's usually, in fact, it's almost always used in sales roles. So you're paid based on how much you sell. It's usually, though not always, that employees earn more money on top of their basic salary. And it can be seasonal and therefore more flexible. Sometimes you get 80% of your money in a basic and 20% in commission. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes it's all on commission. This is not for anyone who cannot sell. I've never come from a sales role. I come from retail, but I was on the buying side. I spent the majority of my time in retail with people coming to sell to me. I know what works as a sales pitch, but I've never been a salesperson. So I couldn't do this. I know I couldn't. I don't have the skills base. But it can be seasonal. It is definitely more flexible. And for some people, they absolutely love that. They love that it's flexible. They love you can control your own schedule and income. You're paid more on a daily basis than some of the salaried staff. You're less likely to be involved in sensitive situations. It can give people a really big variety in work. I think I would have struggled if the role was 100% commission. I also know, and the big downside for me is that you're working with colleagues who you're working against, because everybody is trying to sell the same thing in the same market. and therefore aggression or aggressive behavior within your colleagues is sometimes just a part of how this works. But fundraising often works on it, insurance sales works on it, job recruitment and talent spotters also work on commission. For a lot of people, the pros completely outweigh the cons. But I wouldn't be doing my job properly tonight if I didn't tell you both sides. So what I'd like to do now is just really have almost a show of hands about how you're feeling so far. What I don't want anybody to do is to be put off or scared. This is supposed to be a supportive environment. We don't want anybody to leave feeling really scared. So how are you feeling now about starting a business? I have a thumbs up. Okay. No, I totally understand. I totally understand. It's better that I think you're informed and you make an informed judgment. But some of you have got thumbs up. So if you're excited as you have a skill or a hobby that you want to make something of, then this could be for you. If you're empowered because you like the idea of running something yourself, then starting a business could be for you. If you're excited about your own decisions, then it's definitely for you. If you're really happy to work on social hours, there's no getting around it. There's only really one instance when you may not have to work on sociable hours, but generally, when you're starting a business, it's just how it happens. Okay, so keeping going from here. So let's look at how you do actually get started. So first of all, I just want to clarify what a startup business is. It's a temporary organization formed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. So Steve Blank, who said that, he's an American educator and entrepreneur. And he was very clear. You can watch him on, he's done a TED talk. Startups are not small versions of big companies. They are collections of people united by a clear problem and a set of shared assumptions and a vision for how they can profitably find a solution. Nobody, when you start a startup, gets everything right overnight or on the first day. It's just not how it works. And getting things wrong is a much, much better way to learn than when you get things right. Just a work avenue tip. One of the things you could do after tonight is you could come and visit us at WeHub, which is our share office space. I'm in the Work Avenue offices tonight. You could come and visit us at WeHub, which is an area where people come and rent a desk space. They hot desk, they rent a desk or an office, and talk to people about what it's like to start businesses and how we can support you. So just moving on from there. There are lots of different types of businesses, and I just want to run through them so that we're all very clear about what are the types of things you could do. The first one I've called heavy duty, and this is because if you start a business that is very risky from the start, it can also be very expensive. So let's just say, only because I can tell you this, I've had a client who was making popcorn from home with a machine that she bought from Argos. There's nothing wrong with popcorn, and there's nothing wrong with Argos, and there's nothing wrong with making it at home until she tells me that she wants to sell it to Tesco. Now, this is making popcorn at home to watch Netflix. Selling it to Tesco is massively off the scale. What would she have to do to turn it from her popcorn making business at home to sell to Tesco? She would need a kitchen that Tesco could inspect. She would need equipment and raw materials and tell Tesco where the raw materials would come from. She would need a manufacturing base. She would need trained staff and recipes and health and safety checks and a huge amount of money behind her to promote a brand. That's a heavy duty start of business, but you don't have to start like that. You could start with what I call playing it safe. It's a cash flow business. Things like buying a raw material, so buying a piece of stained glass, doing some painting on it, packaging it, and reselling it. Or actually, florists, they're often cash flow businesses. What it means is that the money that comes in to pay for the sales goes out to pay salaries and raw materials. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. Absolutely nothing. You could have a hobby business, the type of business that you only sell what you make and you only make what you can sell. I have a client here, she hand decorates cupcakes. She does amazing things. So if you are an Arsenal fan, or you have somebody in your family who's an Arsenal fan and you want to send some cupcakes about the fact that they won at the weekend, she's fantastic and she will hand decorate with each one with a different player's name. She's brilliant. But she has a hobby business. She only sells what she makes and she only makes what she sells. And that's fine if she loves it. You could have a build to sell business where you're building it to sell for a profit. This is predominantly high-tech businesses, or in finance, or in IT, or in systems. In a lot of cases, those are built to sell. Does that all make sense so far? I hope it does. I really hope it does. I hope I haven't put you off. So just moving on from there. The question is, what next? If you have decided to do it, if you have decided to take the step, you have decided to set up a business, what happens next? So how do you do it? Well, the first thing you do, please, is come and see us at Work Avenue and let us help you. That's the first thing. But whether you're doing that or not, whether you let us help you or not, all or nothing approach. Some people choose to do this. This is when you quit your job. You hand your notice in and you say, not going to work for you anymore. Thank you very much. What I want to do is start a business. You use your savings to build an adequate bank account to support yourself as you build your business. We would suggest that you factor in your costs for a year and that you always budget for more than you think you need. It's easier to pay yourself a salary as you start your business. So you're probably going to need, if you haven't got enough in your bank account, if you haven't got enough savings, you're probably going to need to choose some investment. So crowdfunding or angel investment. Now, we have lots of people that do this really successfully. The pros, you have masses of time to work on your business without having to worry about your day job. That's the biggest pro. You're not doing two things at once. You're not juggling two things at once. You have all the time in the world to dedicate to the business. That means you progress and you generate your first revenue much more quickly. It can work really, really well for some people. On the flip side of that, you also have to deal potentially with fear and pressure. Now, some people just don't get that. Not that they don't understand it, they just don't feel that. They don't feel pressure and they don't feel fear. And this isn't a scary thing for them. And that is brilliant. If you're like that, that's fantastic. But when you quit your job to go solo, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to make it work very quickly. And unless you're able to raise investment and pay yourself a salary, some people find that too hard. We have lots of people who try it and then go back to taking some part-time work and do both in parallel. But if you've got something, this is just particularly the case. If you have a product that you think other people are going to copy and therefore you need to get it out on the marketplace very quickly, then this is the way to go. So so I have a client here who does something really, really clever with sneakers. He's done this because he figured that the minute his product was out in the marketplace, there would be other people who would copy him. So if you've got something like that, then this is absolutely the way to go. In which case, for him, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And he's had an unbelievable 6 months. So I wouldn't ever say that this isn't right. What I would say is that there are products and there are people where this is absolutely the way to go. An alternative approach is to build a business from your job. So I just want to make this clear. This is not a side hustle. A side hustle is my friend Richard, who's an employment advisor here, who's a children's entertainer at the side on a Sunday. He doesn't ever want to be a children's entertainer full time. He wants to work at Work Avenue, thank God, because he's brilliant. So that's a side hustle. Building a business from your job is where you work in IT and you have a job in IT, you have a role in IT, but you're looking to start an IT business of your own using what you're doing. So the first thing you need to do is dedicate the time to work on it. Building it at the weekends or setting aside fixed time each week that you dedicate to working on your business is really the way to do it. And that is the most crucial thing to making any progress, picking a day and time and stick to it. So in the same way that I described in the all or nothing side, that works for people who have no fear, are hugely confident in what they're doing. Here, the main characteristic is that you are absolutely brilliant at managing your time, because it's very, very easy to get sidetracked onto the work where you're paid, as opposed to the work that you're not paid yet, you're not selling yet, which is your own business. So you have to set yourself time-sensitive goals to ensure that you stay on course. It's really easy to get sidetracked. You could do a halfway house, which is about going from an employee to a consultant on the side and then building a business, because that will save your employer money on taxes. Pros of this: building a sector from a business. You're building a business from a sector that you know. So this is what I did. I set up a consultancy practice in retail. I knew about retail. I knew I was going to do it. We had a trial and we tried it while I was on maternity leave. I had maternity leave for 18 weeks. We tried a consultancy business while I was on maternity leave. I went back, I completed my contract, and then I left and set it up. So you're building it from something that you know, and that gives you a level of financial stability because you're not starting from nothing. It's also much easier to reach out to existing contracts while you are still employed. It also means that you worry less about the money. On the downside, as I said, it's so easy to get sidelined on unpaid work when you really, really need to do the work that your employer is paying you for. Going part-time might be the only way you can make it work, but asking for a sabbatical or a pay cut, those are other ways that you could do it. Okay, just moving on. Okay, the side project. So the side project is a great way of testing out the experience you have gained in your job and setting up a business using it. You're not doing it at the same, you're not going to set up a business. What you're doing is testing out an idea as a project. So starting a project that excites you, you frame it as a project and not a business. That takes out a huge amount of, I suppose, pressure on you having to make it work. You'll be more flexible and you'll be open to challenges. I think this is a really valuable way to try things. But I just want to talk a little bit more about how you choose this. One of the things to do is to look at your dreams and aspirations and think about, if somebody says to you, what do you wish you were able to do in your career? So if somebody turns around to you when you're 100 and says, what do you wish you want to do? You may have decided you want to be a ballet dancer. You may have decided you want to be an astronaut. And those are absolutely fine. But you might decide you want to be a tour guide. You want to work in a hotel. You want to drive a bus. Whatever it is, having a side project is a great way to try something new without risking your job, but trying it. It's an opportunity to seize your ambitions and to explore them without having to retrain in a given field. Building up a side project is a great creative outlet. It can also, in a lot of people, it helps you think more creatively and strategically in your paid work, and that's a bonus. It means you gather new skills without even realizing it. I want to tell you that you don't need anyone's permission or qualification to do the things that you're interested in. I also want to tell you that you shouldn't put yourself under pressure. Google famously allowed 20% of each employee's time to be used to work on whatever innovative projects they wanted. And that's how Gmail and Google Talk were born. So there can be employer benefits. So the side project gives you, on the sort of the pro side, it allows you to test out business ideas to see which one fits best for you and to try out something you're curious about and to explore if you'd really like it. This is really important to me and really close to my heart. Finding out that actually it isn't something you really enjoy in practice is just as valuable as finding out that it is. There's no other way to explain that. It's really true. But using the time to build up a business so that you already have a head start by the time you decide to quit is also very valuable. But if you're a person who is on a mission to grow a business really fast, this is not for you because it won't work fast enough. It's too slow. It's not ambitious. If there is a barrier that most of us think of in terms of all or nothing, I'm quitting my job and starting a business, the side project doesn't work for you. But the other thing to say is that timing is really perfect for leaving a job and starting a business. There's always going to be something that doesn't quite work. So if you've decided to go for it, what should you consider? For me, do you have a business idea? Most people do. I would then ask you, does the business solve a problem or solve a customer need? And are there other people doing the same or a similar thing? So my biggest tip on this is that almost every business should have a USP, a unique selling point. There should be a reason why customers come to you rather than anybody else. If you Google what your business idea is, and there are 42 pages of things that, or people that Google think do the same as you, it is unlikely you have a USP. Does that mean you shouldn't do it? No, because the USP could be you. It could be the way you see things. It could be the way you do things. It could be your skills, your experience, your personality. So it's not a dead end, but for me, I'd want to know that you have something that's special and unique. I'd also want to be able to help you, because the only way to say this is to use the word plan. Plan, 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 plan. Whenever we talk to the British Business Bank, they say that failure is nearly always a case of people not planning well enough. And of everything, financial planning is the main reason why startups fail. So for us, these things, what are the costs? How many times do you need to make a sale? How are you going to make a profit? How long does it take to take a salary? These are the kind of things that you need to consider. These are also the kind of things that I know from working at Work Avenue that people like to do least. So when I say to people, oh, let's have a meeting and talk about your cash flow and your costs, people are suddenly busy and I don't see them for months. If I say to people, let's have a meeting next week and let's talk about your product and who you're going to sell it to, they're on the phone within a minute. I'm not going to say these things are easy or comfortable, but I am telling you that you have to get to grips with it. And if you can't or you won't, then starting a business is very, very hard, but not impossible. Absolutely not impossible. One of the things that's also really important to think about is whether you have the capabilities or aptitude and business acumen to get clients, make sales, and plan a marketing strategy. And for me, the question here really is, are you willing to do the jobs that you may hate? So when you think about, one of the things that I do with my clients at Work Avenue is we take a huge piece of paper and we write down, this is the business idea. What are all the things that you have to do to make those happen? And then we get another pen in a different color and we say, right, which of these things do you like doing? And then if the person doesn't like doing a lot of those things, we have to work with, right, how can we help you? Do you need somebody else as a partner? Do you need somebody else doing those things? Can you contract them out? Can you share some of those things with some people? It's not a no. But what is a no is not to plan for it. So at this stage, I sort of want to take it down a notch and think internally about what you may be feeling. What are the voices in your head saying to you at this time? Are they saying to you, I'm too busy to do this? Are they saying to you, I won't be able to find the time to retrain or to make it work? Are they saying to you, I don't think I have the right skills. I'm rubbish at Word or Excel. I've done it before and it didn't work. What I want to tell you about all of this is that at Work Avenue, we have courses. We have courses to retrain you. We have courses to help you. We have advisors to help you and retrain you and support you. Please don't let this be a barrier. Please come and talk to us. if you think any of these might be stopping you doing what you really want. And that's because the more people that I work with here and the more people I help setting up a business, the more I know how important mindset is. That on the left-hand side, you've got fixed mindset, and on the right, you've got growth. And if you're really, really honest with yourself, you need to be on the right-hand side to be setting up a business. Now, there's plenty of absolutely brilliant, outstanding people that sit on the left. They can run brilliant, brilliant businesses, but they need partners, support, and teams around them. And there's plenty of brilliant people on the right who will never make something happen because they're too busy chasing every dream. They need support and help and team as well. But it's about thinking about what you need on this. And the most important thing is, please, if you take nothing else from tonight, avoid the trap of never starting. The fear of spending 5 years, 10 years, and lots of money building something that doesn't work is the main reason why people don't start. But I have to tell you that in Britain now, it's never been easier or cheaper to start something new. And you don't need to commit to doing it for the rest of your life. You just need to commit to having a go. So this last part is my tips for how you make it work and where to go from here. The first thing is define for yourself what success looks like. Most people start and say, I want to earn 10 million pounds. Okay, let's be realistic. There are people that do that, but the majority of us are not going to get to that in a year. Let's just say, because I have a lovely client who said to me, Sara, success for me, because she's a jewelry designer, is selling my product in Liberties, which is a store on Regent Street in London. She said, for me, it's not about the money. I want to see my jewelry in a glass case in Liberties. It's not about selling it. It's not about people wearing it. It's about it being sold there. So it's important to define what's right for you. I also want to talk about this. It's a lot harder to build a business solo, and business partners are there to pick you up when you're down and to share the successes when they come. The power of two people solving a problem is much, much greater than the power of one. But for me, assessing complementary skills together is the key. When I moved from Tesco to set up a retail consultancy, I moved with a colleague from Tesco, who I worked with very closely for nearly 10 years. We did the same job, but we were miles apart in terms of personality and skills. I'm a people person. I wanted to go and have coffee with people. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to chat to people about what we were doing and why it was new. She wanted to stay in her pajamas. She wanted to do cash flow. She wanted to do strategy documents. She wanted to work from home. She didn't want to come into London. She didn't want to go on the tube, and she didn't definitely ever want to have coffee with anyone. It worked, and it worked really, really well, because we started from the point of view of we're heading to the same place, we're going in the right direction, and we're going together, but you want to do this and I want to do that. I couldn't do a cash flow, a profit and loss. I can now. I couldn't then, and I didn't want to learn. I wanted to go out and have coffee with people. So it was a really important thing for us to have each other, and it worked. It worked for 15 years. I wouldn't be covering this properly if I didn't talk about ideas. Good ideas are absolutely brilliant. Executed excellently, they can be extremely valuable, but there's a huge difference between having a good idea and being the right person to turn a good idea into successful reality. So just a couple of things to make us all feel better. The man that created bubble wrap, he started off creating textured wallpaper. He failed totally in creating wallpaper. It just didn't work. Then somebody came along and said, actually, we need to transport computers across Europe. Could we have some of your wallpaper to wrap things in? And bubble wrap, as we know it, was born. I don't know that anybody has a toolbox at home and uses WD-40. I don't know whether anybody has that. You don't have to tell me whether you do or whether you don't. We have a toolbox at home. It lives in the garage. We have WD-40. Why is it called WD-40? Because the lab had 39 goes at getting the consistency of the oil right before it worked. WD-40 was the 40th attempt. That's why it called that, and it stuck. So please don't think that if you don't get it right the first time, it's not going to happen. So taking it from what we've been through in the last 45 minutes and moving forward, what I'd like you to do is just take a couple of minutes and picture yourself in 12 months' time. What do you see yourself doing? So it starts with, on the bottom step, what am I doing now? And there's something in what am I doing now that has meant that you came to join us tonight, which I'm very grateful for. So the next bit is, what would be my first step? And what do I want to achieve? Now, we've put 1 month and 6 months, but it might be 6 months and 12 months, or 1 year and 2 years to get to where you want to be. But it's really a case of, if you don't ever make the first step, it's never going to work. So I'm going to send you this actually after tonight, but I'd just like you all to just take a minute to think about not even where the dream goal is, because you might not know that yet, but what would be your first step? Okay, I've got a couple of people still writing, so I think we'll just have another 10 seconds or so. Okay. So moving on from there. In terms of taking the next steps, whether you're staying in employment, you want to move into business, or you want to change your employment, please, please, please come and see us. We have a huge amount of extensive introductory courses. We also have volunteering opportunities. We have work experience. We have networking groups. But actually, what we do want you to do, and we're going to give you a link in a second, is book yourself a 15-minute follow-up to tonight. So really, Melissa and I see tonight as 2 parts. There's this session that we almost finished, and then a follow-up with me, which is going to be 15 minutes and virtual. What we don't want to do is anybody go away thinking, I don't know what to do now. So I really would encourage, please, everybody, come and chat with me after tonight about what your next steps are. There's no judgment. It's totally confidential. You chat to me on the phone. You don't have to come and meet me in person, just so that you go away from tonight with something that you feel supported with and you can think about. Things I want to tell you to keep you positive. The more you're prepared to do things you don't like, the more likely you are to succeed. Entrepreneurs don't wake up one day and decide to be entrepreneurs. That's not how the world works. They decide to start things and they become entrepreneurs through repeated actions, trying and learning. So please don't beat yourself up for not being an entrepreneur today, because the only way to become one is to keep taking one step after another along this path. So, just before I open up the floor to the Q&A, if you click on this link, it will take you directly through to my calendar, and you can book yourself a slot to come and chat with me. I've got days, evenings, and weekends. So I hope that there'll be something for everybody. And I really, really hope that you can, that I can help you further. It's all private, it's all confidential. There is no pressure for you to do anything. There's no pressure for you to start a business after this. There's no pressure for you to change a job after this. It's just to say we are here to support you in whatever route you decide you would like to do.